Those who cannot remember the past are doomed to repeat it. If there was a piece of clothing that ran Hollywood in the 2000s, it was the trench coat. Somehow, the trench coat's reputation went from being the go-to weapon of a serial sex offender to the coolest piece of clothing an action star could wear. And if you didn't already know, it was mainly because of The Matrix, to which Hollywood learned the lessons. Okay, they didn't succeed because they had a good story and innovative filming techniques. No. The key to their success was trench coats and all-black costumes, which was a trend we didn't see die until almost a decade later. And by the way, for this section, I'm clearly talking about characters who don't typically wear a trench coat, so not characters like Punisher or Gambit. Exhibit 1A, we have Dr. Doom. Now you might notice something with trench coats as we go through these examples. They were basically Hollywood's way of saying that they were scared of capes. I didn't know The Incredibles had that kind of effect on the industry, but there you go. Okay, to be fair, it's not exactly a trench coat, but to be even more fair, I have no clue what the fuck that's meant to be. It does become a trench coat when those clasp things become undone in the final fight though. At the time of recording, we still don't know what Dr. Doom is gonna look like in Avengers Doomsday, but so far the bar is on the ground. And by the bar, I mean the 1994 Dr. Doom. His Rise of the Silver Surfer look was better, I guess, but any progress made with that was catapulted backwards by his Fan 4-stick look. Yeah, we'll talk about that one later. Exhibit 1B, we have Clark Kent, aka the Blur from Smallville. You know, if you have a silhouette of a person with a wavy cape attached to the back and you ask someone to guess who that character is meant to be, chances are one of the guesses will be Superman. Because Superman is arguably the most recognizable figure in Western fiction to ever wear a cape. And you know what that means for a show all about Superman? Never give him a cape, apparently. If you haven't seen Smallville, Clark basically operates as a hero out of the public eye, kind of like a vigilante operating in the shadows. He wears a full black outfit with the S logo painted on his shirt or something, with a really cool and fucking sick trench coat, am I right? If I remove my nostalgia goggles and take a good look at this costume, even though I liked it as a kid, it's pretty funny, I can't lie. And in case you're wondering, yes, he eventually did upgrade his costume to this. Because what's cooler than a trench coat, kids? A leather jacket, of course. I'm pretty sure every costume designer on the show was a dad stuck in the 90s. However, I will say that at least the trench coat gave him a cape-ish silhouette and it would look really cool when he was moving about sometimes. There's this one really cool rescue scene in Smallville and oh my god, it looks so sick. But you know what didn't look sick? Exhibit 1C, we got Daredevil 2003's Bullseye. Okay, for the tone of the movie and what the movie ended up becoming, I guess it's somewhat passable, but how does Daredevil get a comic book costume, but no one else in the movie does? Make it make sense. I just want to know the thought process behind putting that headscarf on display. Like, how is that better than giving him just a regular costume? In fact, I feel like giving Bullseye a costume would have at least balanced it out between good and evil, because it's kind of weird that Daredevil's in this world with no other costumed heroes or villains. It was also common back then to just dress a guy up in a black battlesuit, and he couldn't do that for the one guy who needs a black battlesuit. However, credit where credit is due, it's memorable, I guess. Exhibit 1D is actually a pretty universally liked one. It's Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man 2. Why do you like this trench coat but not the other trench coat? Hypocrite alert. One thing that sets apart Doc Ock's trench coat skills from the others, no, it's not his bare chest. No, it's not that badly photoshopped No Way Home poster. It's obviously because the man has 2 trench coats on. But seriously, what makes Doc Ock look cool but Dr. Doom and Bullseye look like shit? I think in my opinion, it's because the main factor for Doc Ock's costume is the tentacles, and they did a really great job at adapting the tentacles for the real world. So when you have a solid foundation like that, you can pretty much play it safe for the rest of the look. Dr. Doom, on the other hand, he has this whole thing going on where you can't really do one thing without doing the other. Like if you just gave him a metal mask without anything else, he would just look like a hardcore Casey Jones. Bullseye, on the other hand, well, that just looks a bit shit, doesn't it? Dude, they even took the trenchcoat Doc Ock look into Spectacular Spider-Man and into the Ultimate Spider-Man comics. The look was just too goated. So yeah, when the trenchcoat is done right, it looks cool, okay? But I am gonna assume that we are past the phase of just chucking on a trench coat onto any character ever. You know, like I said with Doc Ock, some costumes just have to be adapted into the modern day correctly. And sometimes, yes, that means toning down the gadgets and the comic book techno bullshit gizmo for something more digestible on screen. Unfortunately, this process sometimes leads to results that are borderline unrecognizable with what we started with, and that's all thanks to converting everything into realistic tech/science. Exhibit 2A, we got Bane from Dark Knight Rises. I know the Nolan movies are the epitome of the realistic superhero movement, but needless to say, he adapted the Batman mythos with elegance and creativity. Scarecrow still had his fear toxin, Joker still had his clown look, Bane still had his venom to— Whoa. Who is this? Cool design, don't get me wrong, but nothing from comic book Bane made it on screen. I might be missing something, but isn't a chemical that makes you physically stronger 10 times more believable than a guy walking around with half his face falling off? I get that the luchador mask might have been a bit too ridiculous for this world, especially for a guy who's meant to lead a group of mercenaries, but would it have been more unworldly than the mask we ended up getting? Again, looks badass, but in my opinion, nothing about this is Bane. Come on. Arkham Origins did a good job of adapting the luchador mask without losing any seriousness, so there's some proof that it could work. Exhibit 2B, we got Green Goblin from Spider-Man 1 and Green Goblin from Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think a lot of people who grew up with the Willem Dafoe Green Goblin design actually liked it, including me, but it is hard to defend when comparing it to the original Green Goblin look. I know they tested out the animatronic Green Goblin mask and they deemed it too scary for kids or something, which, listen, I agree with, because Spider-Man should be a character enjoyed by the whole family. I can already hear you fatties type away on your keyboard saying, actually they shouldn't fucking use that mask. I wouldn't have been scared as a kid. Fuck those other kids. I'm different, you know? Well, guess what, okay? You would have been scared, you would have shat your pants, and your breath stinks. As for the Amazing Spider-Man 2 Green Goblin design, I'm gonna be controversial here. I don't really mind it. It's a good alternate world look for Green Goblin. But there's the issue. This wasn't some alternate world. This was the main Spider-Man franchise that was being exposed to hundreds of millions of people all around the world. Remove the glider and good luck trying to guess who that's meant to be. That is the fucking Green Elf. I think giving him a mask or a helmet would have dramatically improved this design. How would they give a practical reason for it? No clue, because they kind of put themselves into a corner by saying, oh my god, everything in this world is from Oscorp Tech. Or, since this franchise was heavily influenced by the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, just make him into a CGI goblin monster, fuck it. But needless to say, the final choices for his face are just ugly. Let's just thank the heavens that we ended up getting the No Way Home design, because that shit fucking cooked. It goes crazy hard. Exhibit 2C for modern science and tech costumes, we got Fan 4 Stick. Everyone in Fan 4 Stick. So in case you didn't know, apparently colors just weren't allowed back then. I don't even know if you can call this movie a superhero movie, because I don't see a single superhero costume. And for the Thing, I mean literally don't see any costume. And I think that was because Josh Trank wanted to take the Fantastic Four in a different direction and focus more on the sci-fi and the body horror elements, and let's just say, I see the vision. You know, I could see that working. And you know what? This costume set, it's really not that bad, you know? It's passable. Because when you compare it to Doctor Doom, oh my god. I understand what they're trying to do with Doctor Doom with his costume melting onto his face and body, and they were like, okay, this is a really quick and easy way to tie in Doctor Doom's origin with the Fantastic Four's origin. But this isn't a pack of noodles. Quick and easy will not work for Doom. I will say that if this was an alternate look for Doom, I don't think people would have really minded, especially because I think this design will look way better illustrated in comic form. I think they took some inspiration from Doctor Doom in the Ultimate comics, and by inspiration, I mean that very loosely. But overall, they tried doing something different, and in the end, what we got was a big Ken doll that looked like it was left by the radiator for a bit too long. Exhibit 2D, we got Silver Samurai in the Wolverine. This one's a bit self-explanatory. That is not a samurai, that is a fucking Decepticon. Or that's Shredder from the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles movie. Leather costumes was a superhero design trends that plagued the 2000s, and thankfully it's died down since. The most prolific criminals for this trend is undoubtedly Exhibit 3A, the X-Men trilogy. Before we really get into this, let me play devil's advocate for a bit. So in the late 90s / early 2000s, adapting comic books into movies just wasn't a thing anymore, and I mean authentically adapting the costumes and everything. The whole thing kind of died off with Batman and Robin, so we got movies like Blade, which was a comic book movie, but not really. So getting the X-Men off the ground onto the big screen was a pretty big challenge, especially because every character's costume was just a primary color. And that is how we got leather black. Yeah, sick, leather black for everyone. Okay, but honestly, if you never knew who the X-Men were and this was your first exposure to them, It doesn't look that bad. But then you compare it to how they're meant to look, and that's when these choices become questionable. All these members with different personalities and different powers, and they're all wearing the same shit. But I think the real crime comes post X-Men 1. When they made X-Men 1, there hadn't been any recent proof that comic book costumes can work on screen without looking goofy. So fair enough, you want to play it safe and make sure you earn your money and get a good word of mouth. Then Spider-Man came out, then Spider-Man 2 came out, then Daredevil came out. Even though that was another leather costume, it was still comic book accurate. And throughout the entire X-Men trilogy, no one was ever like, hey, since we know that people can fuck with accurate superhero costumes, maybe we should give it a crack. Nope, they just held on for dear life onto these costumes until the trilogy ended. And yes, X-Men First Class was fine like, hey, wait a minute, what if we had colors in our outfits? Then in Days of Future Past, we got a little color, then in Apocalypse, we went back to bland and boring, but at the end of Apocalypse, we did it. We hit the gold mine. A gold mine that was never mined again, because after that we just went back to some very mediocre costumes. I'm going to guess that in Avengers Doomsday we're going to see the original X-Men cast in all their colorful glory. Surely they learned something from Deadpool and Wolverine, right? Like that Wolverine costume, people loved it. But does it matter since they'll probably kill off all the X-Men characters to show how powerful evil Iron Man is? Probably not. As long as we get these costumes on screen with the cast, I'll be happy. I'm kidding, please don't kill off the X-Men quickly, okay? Another costume trend I have listed down here is a trend that may not make sense to you at first, but then you'll realize that it makes complete sense. It's the no costume trend. Exhibit 4A, we got Netflix's Iron Fist. I'm not sure who saw Daredevil get a costume and was like, Iron Fist also has an iconic costume. No costume it is! They did tease his original look in flashbacks, but that was it. The first season is literally just him running around looking like a homeless dude. And if you're making your superhero show like that, then I'm afraid that's a symptom of a bigger problem. Luckily though, and I'm pretty sure most of you don't remember this, but Danny Rand actually did get given a vigilante costume in season 2. Which makes sense because after reading all the feedback from season 1, it's a no-brainer to give him a costume in season 2. I mean, let's look at it now. Oh. Looks a bit shite. Does someone forget to tell them that the Iron Fist mask is meant to be on the other half of his face? Literally, I would have accepted that getup if it had the Iron Fist mask and the dragon symbol. Like, bare minimum, come on. It's not even like Jessica Jones or Luke Cage who have popular costumes that look like regular clothes. Iron Fist has a costume that shares history with his origins, and the modern version of his costume, it wouldn't even be that hard to make with a TV budget. So yeah, if Iron Fist comes back in Daredevil Born Again, or if a different Iron Fist shows up in Shang-Chi 2, just give him a costume. Exhibit 4B, we have Batman v Superman's KG Beast. This is what KG Beast looks like in the comics. And as you can tell, they're pretty much identical, right? Okay, fine, you got me. The only reason I wanted to see that gun arm was to see Batfleck tear it off and attach it to his Batmobile. I get it though, having another costume character in this movie would have just added more confusion. And confusion was something we did not need more of in Batman v Superman. Because if a character has a costume, a regular member of the audience is going to be like, oh, okay, they must be important. When in reality, they just took KG Beast's name and nothing else. He was just a guy working for Lex Luthor. And it's not like we needed more characters in that movie. Fucking hell, Justice League 0.5 that movie was. Exhibit 4C, we got Baron Zemo in Captain America Civil War. I already talked about this recently, but this was decision making done right. It fits the character, it fits the story, and eventually we saw the comic accurate costume. What more can I say? What more do you want? Alright, the final trend I got for this list is the generic mercenary / militarization transformation. So for some reason, Hollywood loves stripping away costumes from superheroes and supervillains and making them into some generic mercenary / military gun dude. Why? It's easy, I guess. The most recent example of this is Exhibit 5A, Captain America Brave New World's The Serpent Society. So if you've seen Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes or whatever Marvel show, you probably know that the Serpent Society is a team full of snake-themed villains. And I'll admit it, the very idea of them is very dumb and campy, but at the same time, it's kind of cool. And I do believe that translating them on screen can be done. Make them cyborgs, make them aliens, make them a dark reflection of the Avengers. I don't know, anything for an excuse to get their costumes on. What I won't stand for though is making them a bunch of nameless mercenaries who use guns to fight. What? Like, dude, this isn't an adaptation. It's not even an Easter egg. This is a fucking insult. Let Sam Wilson fight some supervillains. Fucking hell. There's a reason why he's gained zero aura with the general public. It's because he got him fighting forgettable bozos all the time. Exhibit 5B is Bullseye in Daredevil Born Again. FYI, I was gonna give this one some serious leniency because Bullseye's appearance was part of the reshoots, and God knows how short of a time span the costume designer had to scrap this costume together. However, if you've seen the set photos for season 2, not much has changed, unfortunately. I think they took inspiration from the new Ultimate look, but there are just two things that I'm really not liking. First, the shirt. Come on, the dude falls over on the pavement once and is gonna be all bleeding and shit. Also, Wilson Bethel, he stays in great shape, so I'm not sure how the shirt is making it look like that he pounds a 6-pack of beers for breakfast every morning. But the bigger crime here is undoubtedly that horrendous ski mask. That mask is fucking cooked. It makes his head look like a skateboard ramp. Bro's jawline has been blessed to wear a superhero mask, and this is when he chooses to flip the face hole mask to just show his eyes. Make it make sense. I'm sure this costume looked better as concept art because you can control how the fabric wraps around his body and how it shapes him, but seeing him stand next to Daredevil, what are we doing here? Exhibit 5C is Hawkeye in the early MCU. For some reason, they were really scared to give Hawkeye a costume early on. We get it, he works for S.H.I.E.L.D., but I hate to break it to you, but in this team of colorful individuals, the color black's already been taken by Black Widow. Till this day, we still haven't seen Jeremy Renner don the iconic Hawkeye cowl like a proper one, and unless Disney's accounting team gets their shit together, we probably never will. I was satisfied with the fit that they had with the Disney Plus show, I'll give them that, but his Avengers 2012 look was basically just nothing. Just lines, black lines on black. Cool, but generic. And finally, Exhibit 5D, we got Jimmy Olsen. Yes, somehow Jimmy Olsen has made it onto this list. CIA agent James Olsen. Okay, fucking hell. I already talked about this recently, but yeah. Dumb. And before we end this video, I just want to spotlight a special movie that managed to take a plethora of these trends and stuff them down into one movie. And that one movie is X-Men Origins Wolverine. I give Wolverine a somewhat pass because the singlet and jacket is such an iconic look for him, but everyone else? No. Sabretooth's got a trench coat and he looks nothing like Sabretooth. However, Liev Schreiber was pretty much perfect casting. It's just a shame that his look was so forgettable. And we have Gambit. Gambit? Trench coat is part of the original design, so it's obviously welcome in the costume here, but one problem. There is no costume here. A character like Blob, I give points for actually going the whole way with his fattiness. I think that's his one thing you just have to nail and everything is okay. It's like his Doc Ock tentacles. Agent Zero / Maverick, radically different, just became a generic sharpshooter military dude. But to be fair, I think any character made in the 90s would be a bit impossible because you would have to use every ammunition belt and every pouch in the entire world. Wade Wilson, yeah. Okay, and that's pretty much, oh, wait, no, never mind. This is the same philosophy I was talking about for the Amazing Spider-Man 2's Green Goblin, except they just brutalized it until it stopped breathing. Everything is beyond recognition. I feel like they threw in those diamond eyes to be like, hey, you know, we love our source material. And everyone else was like, no, you fucking don't. It's just so mind-boggling to think about the thought process that went behind every component of this look. Why no mouth? Why is he shirtless? You couldn't have at least just given him some dark red body armor? How does he even bend his arms when his blades are inside them? Oh my god. And speaking of adapting things into live action in Marvel movies, I did make a video exactly about that, and we talk about The Thing versus the Hulk, Spider-Man and Daredevil teaming up and all that jazz. So check that out if you haven't already. Make sure to check out my discussion channel. Make sure to check out my second channel / vlog channel. Check out my letterbox, and I'll see you next week. See ya!